Well, let's have a look at the vital statistics then for the Grand National here on Ladbrokes Live 1. And 14 of the past 16 winners were having their first start in the race. 22 of the last 28 winners were aged between 8 and 10, and 14 of the last 19 had won over at least 3 miles and a furlong. And more stats as well. Since 1990, only one for Arthur has won after longer than 62 days off the track. Since 1990, all bar 3 winners ran between 3 and 6 times during the current season. Only Aurora's Encore has won since 1990, having not finished in the top 3 that season. So those are the stats then for the Grand National. And the horses that match the stats: Stumptown, Beauport, Nick Crockett, Senior Chief and also Twig. So those 5 match the stats for the Grand National coming up in just over 20 minutes' time. Up and away Newcastle for the Greyhounds on Ladbrokes Live 2, 4, 1 and 3, 6, 2 and 5 towards the back, and 4 pretty wide there, and 5 met trouble, but 4 leads, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5 and 6 is the back marker. So 4 presses on. Ellie's Lady, the lead on the field. Trap 1 on the inside, running a big race at 28 to 1, and Trap 3 also getting involved, but 4 slips away from the field. It's 4-1, 2 gets going a bit too late, and Trap 3 looking to close. Can the 4 last home? 3-1 in the finish, and close in the end between 1 and 4 on the line at Newcastle. And we're off to Yarmouth for the first time for the 340 here, and we kick off the card with a mile handicap 340 action. Winter Pass and Waistcoat both at 5 to 1. It does look wide open. Oh, so Audacious Steve is your pick here on the flat at 13 to 2.
Yeah, a horse who was really consistent last year and won in June at Brighton on quick ground over a mile, and went on from that to run some very solid races. Runner-up on the last 3 starts, including over this course and distance. That was back in July, and I think if Also Audacious is ready first time up, then I think that she's going to run a decent race, and that might well be good enough. It is an open race, but she's 13 to 2. She likes decent ground. She is a horse who tends to hold her form, and if she is able to run a decent race, then she might be able to kick on through the spring and into the summer. But first time out, I'm going to take a chance that Oh So Audacious is ready to rock.
One more left to go in at Yarmouth. What a nice scene there from the seaside track with the green lush turf and the Titian blue skies in the background. Waistcoat at 4 to 1, Winter Pass at 5, Anglo-Saxon 6 to 1, and Oh So Audacious, Steve's pick, 6 out to 7 to 1. It does look open over the mile. Quick ground, last one in.
Please will be the last to go in. Over the mile. All in. Gates back and away they go. Slightly awkward was Keen Interest in the early stages of the Quinn Bet handicap down the full extent of the straight mile here at Yarmouth. Tambourine Dream with that big white face is prominent. Anglo-Saxon as well up with the pace. Then after that is Embarked in the blue headgear, followed then by Oh So Audacious. Then towards the outside, Cranshaw, More Gin Please is also prominent, followed then by Tambourine Dreams just in behind, followed then by 8 Mile in the hooped cap. Also prominent is Twilight Guest in the blue cap. Towards the outside there is Windsor Pass. Still towards the rear of the field, Keen Interest after that slightly slow start. Maguire races out on a limb towards the stand side rail. Towards the back of the field at the moment, Jungle Cruise pulling very hard towards the outer is Waistcoat, well supported in the market. Then Rising Force, and then right at the back of the field at the moment is Glastonbury. But it's Anglo-Saxon with that big white face out in front, leads by about a neck or so as they make their way inside the final half mile to Embark. The blue headgear racing in second. Maguire is travelling strongly down on the rail. Then Cranshaw, the black and blue colours, followed by More Gin Please right down towards the centre of the track. Then Oh So Audacious and 8 Mile with a hoop cap. Twilight Guest now being driven along. Windsor Pass, the purple and green colours, gets a little bit closer. Then the sheepskin noseband of Waistcoat has got a bit to do from there. Down towards the closing stage as they come. And it's Anglo-Saxon still on that rail and still leading them to Embarked in second. Then Cranshaw in third. Oh So Audacious is looking to try and stay on. Then Maguire in the rest. Rising Force down the centre of the track as well. Anglo-Saxon and Embarked. And here over on the far side comes Rising Force. for Jack Callan. Rising Force beginning to get up and going away. And it's Rising Force who takes out the opener in Park for second. Anglo-Saxon finished in third. Fourth horse home wins a pass.
A Rising Force, often quite a smooth traveller, wins there 13-2 under Neil Callan and takes that first at Yarmouth, the 340.
Choose your Grand National horse the easy way with a Ladbrokes Easy Slip. First, choose your horse or horses. Select how much you want to bet. Choose win only or each way and fill in your total stake. Lastly, head to the counter and hand your slip and stake to a member of the Ladbrokes shop team, and your bet will be placed. Good luck.
And those last-minute plans now for the big race coming up from Liverpool, the Grand National at 4 o'clock. It will be live on Ladbrokes TV. Steve Jones with us in the studio to dissect all the main contenders. Iron Maximus heads the market at 6-1, and we can have a look at Iron Maximus in winning form in the race last year, Steve. And how about his claims here? What about his price in terms of his positioning with the JP horses this year?
Yeah, well, he's the reigning champ, so he's worthy of great respect. And, of course, Tiger Roll went back-to-back just a few years ago. You have to go right the way back to Red Rum to find the previous one, but he was very, very strong in the closing stages. And here, he just looked like he might get involved. Minella Indo's also in the field, was hitting the front, the Gold Cup winner from a few years ago. And just behind them, Meeting of the Waters is also there in the second JP McManus colours. But as soon as they hit the elbow, Iron Maximus, that stamina kicked in. And look at the way that he charges clear in the closing stages. And although he has got top weight, you've got to think that he's got every chance of doing it again. He is at the top of the market, but he's there for a reason, because he's been there and he's done it 12 months ago.
And I think that was a good clip there and a segment to see how the race has changed in recent times, because in the old days, the likes of Crisp and Red Rum, there'd be two absolutely miles clear of the rest of the field, and yet there we had quite a few in contention after the final couple of fences. Now, we continue to look at some visual clips, and we can see Stumptown in action here, winning at the Cheltenham meeting and the cross-country. Now, Gavin Cromwell could have had the Gold Cup winner in the National, and obviously that's not going to happen. But Stumptown is a real-life candidate for the trainer.
Yeah, he's got three in here. They've all got chances, and we talk about horses being strong in the closing stages. Again, Stumptown, he did look like he needed to find a bit when they turned in for the straight, but as soon as that stamina kicked in again, he's come miles clear. And Stumptown is a horse who seems to be transformed by headgear. He won in blinkers last season, and last time here wearing cheek pieces, it certainly helped him. That was his fourth win on the bounce. He's got the blinkers back on today, and under Keith Donoghue, he's certainly a live player. And that cross-country race has been a good trial for the Grand National. Tiger Roll twice, and Silver Birch used that cross-country race as a warm-up for the Grand National.
Reminder, we are paying 5 places on all each-way bets for the big race in 15 minutes' time. Now, we can have a look at Percival Legalwa, another of the JP horses in winning action over Christmas time at Leopardstown, Steve. And traditionally, some of these Irish Grade 1 races, the handicaps in Ireland, they're so strong, aren't they, in the build-up to these big prizes? This one especially, it's one of the most fiercely contested handicap chases of the season over in Ireland. And you see here Percival Legalwa is very strong again over this 3 miles. Now, he's got another mile or so to go, but he was really galloping here and coming clear in the closing stages. He's since won a competitive handicap hurdle at Leopardstown at the Dublin Racing Festival, and there's no surprise why he's so popular. And with JP McManus, 5 runners, and they've all got chances, but he's dominating at the top. Iron Maximus, Iroko, and this one, Percival Legalwa. Yeah, traditionally that is a very good handicap indeed. Likewise, the Coral Gold Cup, one of the big handicaps in the chasing season. We can have a look at Can Do Kid here, who ran in the Topham last season over shorter, and actually I like the way, even though it's a shorter trip, he rallied and fought back to get a place in that. But Can Do Kid here, his jumping has been mentioned, Steve, by Ed Quigley as being absolutely spot on, the grey. Yeah, he's a good jumper, and here he thrived going up in distance.
And this is the same race that Many Clouds won before going on to Grand National glory. It's got a pedigree of throwing up really smart horses. This year, was it up to the right standard for a Grand National winner? I'm not so sure, but this is a young, improving stayer who is unexposed at the distance and trained by Paul Nicholls. And we've seen Paul Nicholls win the Grand National before with a grey in Neptune Cologne. That was 13 years ago. Can do kid do it again? I'm not so sure whether he's quite up to the level, but he is certainly a contender who has got more to offer.
Well, Paul Nicholls at the weights lunch for the Grand National thought he had a tiny bit in hand off his mark in the low 150s. Now, some of the key trial races in Ireland, we touched on Percival Leguan, that big handicap in Ireland. Now, traditionally, the Thyestes and the Bobby Joe are the two that Willie Mullins likes to use, certainly with Hedge Hunter, and we've got Nick Rocket here in action, who has taken that traditional route, Steve, and he is a stay-in chaser on the up, even though he's got a stiff-looking mark.
Yeah, he's a horse who was third to his stablemate, Manila Kakuna, also in the race at the big Sandown Gold Cup at the end of the last season, over 3-5. This season, he wins one of the most competitive handicaps of the season, the Thyestes at Gowran, and here he's beating Intense Raffles, another of today's runners, the Irish Grand National winner from last season, and he does it in really good style, the way he put his head down and really battled to see off Intense Raffles. And he's another one of half a dozen runners for Willie Mullins, and they've all got chances. And so Willie Mullins, who won the race last year with Iron Maximus, who's also in the field, he's got a strong, strong hand. Now,
that was the Bobby Joe, and we can look at the Irish Grand National at Fairyhouse last spring as well with Intense Raffles. Now, on the weights, Intense Raffles has got a much greater pull today for the National, but here we can see the grey and the double green of Simon Munir and Isaac Swade winning the big pot at Fairyhouse.
And the first thing that's obvious here, the ground is much, much more testing than it's going to be at Aintree this afternoon. And that is the question with Intense Raffles. He's doing most of his winning on really, really deep ground. Can he cope with the better conditions today? He's a strong stayer, as you can see here, because he could have curled up in the closing stages, but he didn't. He saw out that 3 mile 5, and he's going to have the stamina for the job. It's just whether he's going to be as effective on the better ground.
So there we have it, some last-minute clues for you. The Bobby Joe, one of the great chasers in Ireland, going into the race today, and that's Nick Rocket's chances. Percival Leguan, while we liked his finishing effort in terms of that staying power in that big handicap at Leopardstown over Christmas, and also the performance of last year's winner, Iron Maximus, and that was a good point, Luke, mate, when you watch the replay, and I'd almost forgotten, Steve, 12 months ago, how easily he won. So lots to dissect with 10 minutes left. Last call for any Grand National bets today, 10 minutes before the big race. Reminder, Steve, for your 4 as well today, your 4 picks for the Grand National.
The first one's Meeting of the Waters, one of Willie Mullins' half dozen and one of JP McManus's 5 in the race. Then I'm going to go for another Mullins horse in Manila Kakuna, Monbeg Genius for John Joe and AJ O'Neill, and then my 4th is Duffel Coat, right at the bottom of the weights, the last runner in the Grand National field.
And the great man, JP McManus, with his army of jockeys down there at the start on Ladbrokes Live TV. What a scene set. JP, so many good chances today. Meeting of the Waters, 1 for Steve, 20 to 1 in the green and gold. I Am Maximus with a white cap, and Paul Townend. Paul Townend was talking on the eve of the Grand National yesterday on 5 Live, and that he won't be thinking too much about the race until it really gets to the time, because he has so many good rides. It's been a good week so far for Townend. That will cap a fine week. Iron Maximus looking for back-to-back wins. We've got Yarmouth here, Ladbrokes Live 1. We'll give the call. So we race away at Yarmouth, 1 and 3, 4, 6, 2 and the 5 towards the back. Trap 3, the leader here as they dash up to the opening corner. And 3, one of the market leaders is well clear. 3 and 4, 1 with 2, 5 and 6, the back marker. Trap 3 on the charge here. And the 15 to 8 shot is well in control for the fellow middle seed in second, with 1 back in third, 3 wide. 4 on the inside pitch, 1 in third. It's 3, 4 and 3. Looking to hold on and does so. 3 wins, close second.
It's the big one, the Grand National, today at 4 p.m. Taking a punt on the funniest name or backing your mate's hot tip? However you choose your horse, good luck.
And the big race with us shortly from Liverpool, the Grand National at 4 o'clock. Latest prices available here. I Am Maximus, the 6-to-1 favourite. We had some visual clues with him in winning form 12 months ago. And it's a good time to talk about another JP horse at the top of the betting, Iroko, who's had this race in mind for a long time, Steve. If we had one of his clips, it would be pretty much the same. Over shorter, staying on nicely. Do we finally get to see the real Iroko?
Yeah, well, that has certainly been the plan all season with Iroko for the Grand National, but he has been running over shorter, and I just wonder whether he's going to be battle-hardened enough. He hasn't been in too many tussles, and stamina, although suggested, is not proven.
Now, we've got a grey, and grey's always popular. I love the old Sunny Bay Andrew Cohen horse for a trainer. I used to back his horses many a time back in the 90s. He couldn't quite get his head in front. Could Vanilla do it today? He's got the experience, he's got the place form. Is he quite good enough?
Yeah, he was second a couple of years ago, and he warmed up like Stumptown in the cross-country chase. He was third in that, but his jockey took the wrong course, or nearly did, early on, which didn't help it. Lost his position, stayed on again. I just wonder whether his chance is gone. He won't particularly like the drying conditions either. He's full of stamina, this horse. He will be staying on, but maybe that might be a bit late.
Now, there's a trainer known as the Shark Hanlon. He has Hewitt here, who's been a really popular horse. How about his chances in the big race?
Yeah, he only cost 800 quid, Hewitt. He's already won a King George and a heap of other good races, and the thing with him is, although he won over 3 miles around Kempton, he did that through stamina, and I don't think he's going to have any problems with the distance. He's a real player for the Shark.
Minella Kakuna, your selection, 1 of 4, Steve, here. Chances 14-1.
Yeah, always been a classy horse. He was second in the Albert Bartlett Novices Hurdle at the festival a few years ago. He's taken a while to get the hang of chasing, but he came good in the big Sandown end-of-season stay and chase last season. And he's another one that's going to enjoy the test of stamina, and conditions are right up his street.
Now, we always look for market clues and movers just before the big race. The Can Do Kid move is interesting into 14-1, and also, Steve, 3-card Bragg earlier had been backed and has gone back out and levelled to 16-1.
Yeah, 3-card Bragg's interesting at the bottom of the weight. Sean Bowen in the saddle for Gordon Elliott. Gordon Elliott, of course, has already won 3 Grand Nationals, including a couple with Tiger Roll. And 3-card Bragg won and sort of pushed his national credentials when winning a beginner's chase a couple of starts ago at Navan. Since then, he ran really well back at Navan in a graded race. And if he stands up to this sort of test, he might be one of the likely improvers in the field.
Now, I want to ask you about some of the bigger prices here, and maybe a leap of faith required with 1 or 2. Hitman, 28-1. I mean, this is new territory in terms of the stamina, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he'll do well to last half the distance, and he's not got a lot of courage, this horse. He doesn't win very often. He's got a lot of class. It's very rare that we see Hitman in the winner's enclosure, and this is an altogether tougher test than he's faced.
And Beauport for Nigel Twitten-Davis, who last won the race back in 2002, 1 of 2 for the yard with Earth Summit and Bindery in 2002. Beauport in the famous Corbière colours, the 1983 Grand National winner.
Yeah, and Beauport's already won a couple of nationals. He won the Midlands National in desperate ground last season, and then at Ascot, first time up this season, won the Berkshire National. So he's a horse who's got all sorts of stamina, and he's been protecting his mark over hurdles, so he doesn't go up in the weights, but he ran really well in the long walk, the Grade 1 hurdle, when third behind Crambo just before Christmas.
And I'm going to throw in Highland and Appreciate It together. How can you assess their chances? 25 and 28-1.
Yeah, Appreciate It was one of those horses that looked the next superstar a few years ago. It hasn't really gone on from that. Highland looking to give Nicky Henderson his first Grand National winner after about 35, 40, 50, 60, 70 years maybe. And Highland, though, is a novice who has to prove that he's up to this sort of test. The drying ground will certainly help Highland, but with Nicky Henderson, he's never won a national of any description. And his horses, well, I don't tend to associate them being strong enough stayers.
Yes, amazing to think Nicky's first ever runner in the National, finished second, and since then, back in the 70s, he's not even got a sniff at a chance. Steve, hopefully you'll get closer here with one of your four here. Meeting of the Waters, Minella Kakuna, Mombeg Genius, who we should touch on as well for John Joe O'Neill, and Dufflecoat for you has been quite a mover today from 50s into 33s.
Yeah, Dufflecoat is one that caught the eye a little bit at the Cheltenham Festival. Unfortunate to be brought down in the National Hunt Chase 2 from home when looking like throwing down a challenge. Now, if he's over that kind of experience, which you imagine that he would be, then I think Dufflecoat for Gordon Elliott, who knows how to win Grand Nationals, he's an interesting horse. Although he's a novice, he's got a lot of chase experience.
Gordon Elliott looking for his third Grand National victory today. There we go. The scene is set. Let's have a look at them down at the start at Aintree ahead of the big race. Just over a minute. Very much last chance for your bets over the counter for this year's Randolph's Grand National over the 4 1/4 miles. What a sight we have. We've got Steve's four selections in. I Am Maximus, who won the race 12 months ago, currently at 6 to 1 at the top of the betting. Late support for Iroko. For owner J.P. McManus, this has been the campaign all season, been running over shorter, indeed one stage over 2 miles 5. He's up in trip today, he's got a good mark, and that mark has been protected. 13 to 2 from 15 to 2. Stumptown at 10, Percival Legalwa 11. Vanilla the Grey, one of the Greys in the field at 12 to 1. Little Old Hewick 14 to 1. Can Do Kid has been back today. Minella Kakuna, one of 4 for Steve here, 16 to 1. Intense Raffles at 18. And further down, former Gold Cup hero Minella. Endo, Meeting of the Waters, Nick Rocket. And we are edging towards the start time. Good luck with all of your bets. Reminder, we're paying each way on the 5th spot here. And Alan Howes will have the big race call.